Hey everyone, welcome to another video from JD Scale Models. In this video we're going to be painting up the rest of the parts for the Tamiya Toyota Supra. First thing we're going to do is tape off the windows. These Tamiya kits and some other kits come with tape specifically for taping off the windows so you can paint the frisket area around the outside. Even if your kit doesn't come with this, there's usually a pretty solid line. You can either just go ahead and use some paint and a brush, or if you feel super ambitious you can make your own stencil outline tape thing here. You just obviously have to be extremely careful that you don't scratch your windows. I typically set these on the back of a sanding sponge just to make sure there's a soft area for them to sit so they don't get scratched up. I also like to put a piece of tape on the front of the windshield just to make sure there's no overspray. So I'll typically put a larger piece on and then I'll just cut it down a little bit to size. And then I of course repeat the process for the rear window, and then I'm going to show you guys the side windows here. These are a little bit more involved. There's actually 3 pieces of tape for each side window. So I'll show you what that looks like right now. Great thing about this Tamiya tape is even if you make a mistake, they tend to stick pretty well a second time, so you can peel them off and re-stick them. But again, just take your time, make sure you put them on right. You shouldn't have any problems at all. So even with the included tape, you can see there's a large area of the window that should not be taped. That is not taped up, so I'm just going to use some of the leftover tape from the areas I already did. We're going to tape that up, cut it down, and then they'll be ready for paint. And then like with the last window, I'll just cut off some of the excess to make it a little more manageable. Next, we're going to assemble some of the interior pieces. These seats actually come in 4 pieces. The good thing is that on mine, I'm going to paint the upper part a different color than the bottom part. And then in the middle, there's actually a chrome piece. So I'm going to glue these upper parts together before paint. There's a pretty good seam in here, but I was able to get it taken up with just a little bit of extra Tamiya extra thin and some sanding. Dashboard also comes in 2 pieces. Since it's all getting painted the same color, I just went ahead and glued these together. And then we're going to prime everything with the Tamiya Surface Primer in gray. So I did prime everything. I'm not going to show you all that, but here we are using the Splash Paints red upholstery. It's worth mentioning I did also prime the windows. Don't prime your windows. I'm going to chalk that up to being a little bit rusty. You'll see in a later video what I do to correct that, but there's a few components in here that are going to be painted red. So I'm going to go ahead and get those interior parts painted up in that color. The steering wheel is actually going to be part black, but I'm going to paint the red part first, mask it, and then paint the black next. Again, don't have to be super careful here. We'll just mask off everything else and paint it black a little bit later. Next, we're going to use some Splash Paints gray upholstery. There's only two parts that need to be painted in this color, and this color is almost the exact same color as the Tamiya primer, so it's a little tough to know what's been painted or not. Next, some Splash Paints black upholstery. And then the center console and the interior tub needs to be painted black. You can see I taped off what doesn't need to be painted, and we're just going to get that center console painted up. I wound up leaving this tape on for about 2 days, which I think is a little bit long. It gave me a little bit of a hard time peeling off, but in the end we got it done. This is the Tamiya's painter tape. Comes in 3 different sizes. This stuff is absolutely fantastic. It's a little pricey. You might be able to get away with something cheaper, but for as good as it works, I'll pay the money. You can see there was one small spot I missed, but I was able to clean that up. Now we're going to use some Ammo by MIG camouflage masking putty to mask off the steering wheel. Really, you could use silly putty. It's a lot cheaper, but I had this, so I figured what the heck, let's give it a shot. It worked really well. It was just a little bit tough doing such a small area. You can see I'll use an X-Acto blade just to get everything exactly where it needs to be. So there's one side, obviously the other side is the same. Here we're going to use some more splash paint, semi-gloss black, and paint all the components that need to be painted in that color, including anything that's going to be painted with the splash paint's metallizers. Sometimes you'll notice that with my different lighting, I can see things that I missed in other areas. I have really good lighting in my paint booth, paint box, whatever you want to call it here. But sometimes when I move to the outside, my other lights allow me to catch something that isn't painted properly that I didn't see in the booth. So everything was painted in semi-gloss black. Now we're going to move on to the Splash Paints aluminum metallizer. I taped off the underbody. There is only a few small shields under here that need to be painted in aluminum. On the steering rack, we're only going to paint the outer tie rod ends in aluminum. The center section should stay semi-gloss black, and then the boots we're going to paint in rubber. So if you get overspray, it doesn't really matter. We'll go back and touch it all up. I didn't really follow the directions. I kind of looked at an actual Supra for some of this, and the colors the directions tell you to use don't match up with the live vehicle. I'm sure I made some mistakes compared to a live vehicle as well, but no harm, no foul, as I like to say. On these, I'm going to try to keep the shocks black. So again, a little bit of overspray, we'll touch that up later. For the sway bar, only the bushing portions are going to be silver. The rest we're going to paint red later. On this part, again, the center of the drive shafts are going to want to stay semi-gloss black. The boots we're going to paint in rubber black. And here we are removing the masking from the steering wheel. You can see how well this worked out. Alternatively, you probably pretty easily could have painted this semi-gloss black by hand. So either way you want to do it, it's your model, do it the way you want to. And next we're going to do some touch up with Tamiya's semi-gloss black. I found that this splash paint semi-gloss black doesn't really brush on all that great. It's a little bit thin. Tamiya Paints hasn't let me down yet, so that's what we're going to use. Start by cleaning up a little bit of overspray on the steering wheel. And then again, I wanted these shocks to stay black, so we're going to go ahead and repaint just the shock portion. I'm also going to repaint the spring portion back to black as well. And then in the next part, we're going to paint that spring red. Here we're going to paint the actual shaft portion of the steering gear back to semi-gloss black. And then the axle shafts themselves we're going to touch up as well. Next, we're going to use some Tamiya X7 gloss red. We're going to start by painting the sway bars in red. I'm not sure if this is some kind of a package, but in the Supra I looked at, both the front and rear sway bars were painted red. I do pre-thin all of my Tamiya paints. As soon as I get them, I top them off with thinner, shake them up, so they're pretty much always thinned. I don't have to do anything when I open them except for paint, and if I want to use them from airbrush, I just thin them down a little bit more. On this front bracket piece here, you can see the ends of the sway bars. We're going to paint those red as well. And then, like I said, we're going to paint the springs red. The goal here is to try not to touch the shock, just get the springs. I'm going to show you one, but of course I did all. And then we're going to paint the brake calipers. Obviously, we're going to do all four. I'm just going to show you one. And next we're going to do some Tamiya XF85 rubber black. We're going to start by painting the boots on the differential. And then we're going to paint the boots on the steering rack. And that is it for the painting. After this, we're going to start putting the vehicle together. Next video, we're going to start assembly. So as always, like, comment, subscribe. You got any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Anything you'd like to see me build, let me know down below, and we will see you all in the next one.